Hello, so today we are here at the wonderful Cheddar Gorge. This is a place I've been coming to for many years and I absolutely love it. Today we're going to be talking about a really important aspect of landscape photography, and that is the use of aperture. Now I'm going to take it from the point of view that, that you know a little bit about aperture in terms of the diaphragm of the lens and how that works. And I'm going to be looking mainly, specifically at photographing landscape and how we use aperture in landscape. So I'm going to show small depth of field and a large depth of field and just compare the two. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. It depends what you want to get out of the landscape. But knowing how to use it and which settings that accompany that will really help improve your landscape photography. So let's go for it. Hi, so here we are, set up for the first shot of the day. Now you can't see from where I'm photographing, but there's a very precipitous cliff down below, probably about 400 feet or so. Cheddar Gorge is one of the biggest gorges in the UK. And the reason I've chosen this spot is because of the layers of the gorge, and it's a good place to demonstrate aperture. Now at the moment the light's a little bit harsh, but I'm just going to show you how to go through this. So first thing, you'll see this up on the screen as I'm working. So we're going to start by photographing at f4. Now photographing at f4 is fantastic. Because it gives a lot of separation. So for instance, you can focus in on your foreground, and the background would be nice and blurred out. If you're trying to get the entire scene in focus, it's not the best aperture to use. It lets in a lot of light, and therefore the shutter speed is very fast, which is good. But in terms of getting the whole scene in focus, especially if you're photographing and focusing towards the foreground, it is really it's almost impossible to get the whole scene in focus. So I'll show you up on the screen what I mean by that. So let's take a couple of shots as we go. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a shot of the foreground at f4. So I'm just going to take it to f4. And there we are. So now I'm going to take a shot of the middle ground at f4 as well. And then finally the background at f4. Now, what you'll see when we zoom into that on the screen is that at every level there's only a certain amount of depth of field in focus. So depth of field is the area of focus within the aperture you're using. And it can be quite limited. That's why a lot of people use it for portraiture to get image separation and things like that. For landscape, you need to use it quite cautiously. So onto a higher f-stop then. So traditionally, landscape photographers use f8 to f16 a lot in their work. And the reason for this is purely because everything stays sharp and maintains a sharpness throughout the image from foreground to background within reason. That way you're able to get all the elements of that landscape in focus. Now if you want all the elements of the landscape in focus, they are generally the best apertures to use, although that is always debated and everyone always counteracts that argument. But I find for my work using f8 to f11 for me is absolutely perfect. So let's take another set of shots just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So now I'm going to move it to f11 and I'm going to take those shots again. So starting in the foreground and then the middle ground and then finally the background. And you'll see again the difference that makes in terms of the amount of image detail and the sharpness of the overall picture. Okay, apologies for the light in advance. It's very difficult filming on a cliff. There's only so much space. So set up for the second shot of the day. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to set up the beautiful shot, just looking over the green grass and the cliffs. There's a few people on the cliffs, but that's okay. That's to be expected in an evening like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just focus in on the foreground, and I'm going to take a shot. Now this time I'm working in manual, so not aperture priority, but manual. Manual is a lovely way of seeing the exposure in front of you and really checking that exposure in front of you. Now, if you're ever unsure about your exposure, you can always bracket your exposure. That way, you get the ability to use different exposures within your shot. Okay, so for this shot, I am going to bracket it just in case. So I'm going to take 3 for the foreground, and I'm going to take 3 for the middle ground, and then I'm going to take 3 for the background. That way I can make sure that I can I get every part of the image completely sharp and in focus. Also make sure that the exposure is right for the image. So again, it's not a perfect image, but it's allowing me to just get a kind of sense of the place and using aperture to this fullest effect. I'll show you on the screen now how that worked. Okay. Here we are. So the last shot of the day, and it is absolutely beautiful. Just looking out over the sunset. So it's a quick introduction to aperture and the importance of using aperture appropriately for landscape photography. So to summarise, it's using a f-stop that is that's sharp enough to give you all the fantastic detail out of the landscape. You probably hear the horns below destroying this beautiful scene. Now I'm just going to get ready to photograph beautiful just remains of the day and the last of the sunset. So again, I'm going to just make sure my camera's level. It's an absolutely beautiful scene, this. And I'm going to zoom in and photograph the sky using a few different exposures. So I'm photographing this in manual. I'm going to use a 2-second exposure just to make sure there's absolutely no just to make sure there's absolutely no camera shake, and just to get the most out of the colours. I'm going to zoom into that beautiful sky now. It's fantastic. So that's about it for today. So thank you very, very much for watching again, and I hope that really helped with your landscape photography. So until next time, bye for now.